I hope everyone's week is doing well. I'm just checking the sounds on. My name is Sky. I'm a raw vegan. I save my life with raw foods. I have been a raw vegan for 4 years. I've had over 7 major organs removed, including my stomach, duodenum, top of intestines, full hysterectomy, 60 surgeries. I was sick a lot. I had congenital diseases, viruses, chronic fatigue, tachycardia, mast cell activation syndrome. What else? I had psychiatric issues and I found a raw food diet and this all healed. It's amazing. And there's different ways of doing raw foods, and I learnt this along the way. I have found a way of doing it right now, which seems to be amazing for mast cell activation syndrome and histamines. And I speak about this a lot. There is multiple lives. There's also below, there should be a folder in the description for a mast cell activation kit, which has what I eat in a day. It also has some information on raw foods, histamines, a low histamine diet, what foods are high in histamines. So mast cell activation, we love mast cells, okay, because they go and they signal to the white blood cells in the system and the immune system that there is a problem or there's inflammation or there's a disease. These little mast cells go to the bruise or the bump or the virus, and we love that. And they have little granules on the outside that release, and some of these are cytokines, histamines, IgE proteins. There's lots of other things that are on the outside, but these released and these signal to, as I said, like the white blood cells, T cells, anything that needs to come into the area to fix you. That's it, right? We want blood signaling, white blood cells, we want it all healing. Except with people with chronic inflammation or things like a post viral fatigue or post-viral symptoms that just seem to be unexplained, whether it's gut issues, sleeping problems, too much sleeping, dizziness, POTS, watering eyes. There's a whole host of symptoms. Usually these mast cells are very common, or there's a lot of them on the surface of the skin, any entry to the system. As we know, eyes, they water, nose, anaphylaxis, throat closes up, mast cells, histamines, the gut, because the gut's close to an entrance, urinary problems, bladder problems, respiratory problems, what else? Gynecological problems or reproductive problems. And that's because these mast cells sit around there, right? And it gets very difficult with mast cell activation because these symptoms are so varied, okay? And I have never, even as a health coach, seen two people with the same issues. Mine are varied. I can get gut problems, dizziness, fatigue, watery eyes, watery nose, sneezing, all things that the mast cells do to protect the system. But some people have this in overload, and it's more common off the back of a trauma. Stress is a huge mediator for this. Now, I healed myself on a raw food diet, but noticed after about 3 years that I wasn't doing so well in getting these chronic and often histamine reactions in the body. Rashes, nerve pain, bloated stomach, a generalized tiredness, and I started to explore more. And I found Dr. Brooke Golden's work, and I share she's amazing. And I kind of adjusted my diet because I don't have a stomach a little bit more than what she says. So someone said down here, mast cells. So MAST, mast cells. And these are part of the immune system, okay? And they have these granules, as I said, that release the histamines, cytokines, EGE proteins. A whole lot of stuff comes off of these to help the immune system. But I'm talking about this becomes overreactive. Now, why this is so good to talk about is because it has only been in the forefront of medicine, or a doctor only has known about it for, when I discovered, 2 years, but it'd be about 3 years now. So there's probably research back 5 years, but it's been something that is talked about for about 3 years. And it's something that I don't know how I survived. As a child, I was always, well, she's sick, but we don't know what's wrong, or she's probably faking it. And I've done a live on this. It's very traumatic to live your life not knowing what a diagnosis is and not feeling that chronic fatigue fit all the pain symptoms and surgeries and issues, or that fibromyalgia. It wasn't just in my joints here. We were talking about massive hormone problems. I had a congenital disease and the pain response was massive. I always just had random symptoms that were so horrible I couldn't get up. And I've spoken on this, but what I'm essentially coming on here today is I keep updating you with what I'm doing, because it's like hormone balancing and gut health, right? There's no one shoe fits all. Healing looks different for each person, and I share my healing to hope it can help you guys. As I said, there is a folder in the description. You can grab some information on mast cell activation. You can see how I eat, and I eat a raw food diet because I have found it's the lowest histamine response and the highest hydrating diet that you can find. Plus, I feel amazing and I love it. But off the back of that, that wasn't enough. And as I said, I found Brooke Goldner's work, but I already knew when I healed myself originally, I didn't eat a lot of fruits. I ate more veggies. And a lot of what I ate at the start was lower in histamine, except I was getting my fat source at that time when I healed myself 4 years ago from avocados, which are high histamine, and I started to react to. So as I dug deeper, omega-3s are amazing for these pathways and the whole inflammatory pathway of the whole body. So omega-3s are fatty acids. We need fatty acids. They're an essential fatty acid, just like omega-6. But as Brooke Goldner says, is the cells of your body basically are built either by omega-6 or omega-3. And if it's omega-3, they're limber, they're soft, they do their job, they do what they're supposed to do. The communication signals through the cells are on point. But the way the Western diet is set up and the way most people eat is a high omega-6 diet. And that is, I think she talks about arachidonic acid, but you don't need to know that. What you need to know is these cells become rigid and stiff. So when communication comes to hit the cell and go through and say, hey, we need some sodium or magnesium or open a calcium channel, it doesn't happen because it's so rigid. It gets mixed messages, right? So I have swapped over to a higher omega-3 diet from chia, flax, and flax oil. And I noticed straight away my immune response, like this overactivity, seemed to calm. And basically, I've kept my body in balance with low histamine foods, high omega-3 diet. I also added in magnesium, which really helped. Before this was just predominantly a fruit and green, not really a lot of greens, fruit, veggies, some greens, but a lot of fruit. This really settled things, but it wasn't the full picture. I was still getting a little bit of nerve pain and a little bit of rashes, okay? My blood tests showed I'm fine, but I was still getting, histamine symptoms. And I've added in for over a week now, it's been like 10 days, quercetin. Okay, now quercetin is a polyphenol. It is found in things like cabbage, it's found in grapes, it's found in the skin of onions in a huge amount. But I realized I wasn't going to eat enough to get the effects of this antihistamine effect of the quercetin. Now, this antihistamine effect is like exponential in that it helps with DNA regulation and rebuilding. But not just that, it helps stabilize mast cells, which are about to go crazy. It helps regulate the calcium, which is involved with mast cells. It disrupts that. It helps lower the inflammation of cytokines, which come off these mast cells. And this is a lot going on here. But basically, quercetin has literally given me no symptoms. So I've had little rashes come up. I'll take some quercetin. I don't have it with me at the moment. I take the tablets as 600 milligrams, and I was taking them last week, 2 of those, 3 times a day when I started. Now I just take them as needed. Usually when I eat is when I feel that I get a bit of a flare. Even if I start to scratch a bit, I take a quercetin, which is just a polyphenol, so just a vitamin supplement, and it has made the world of difference to me. I don't think it fixed me. I think omega-3s, what I've noticed about the omega-3s is they are continuing to give me benefits. So I feel like every few days I notice a new thing in my body which is better. My response to smells, my concentration was really bad. That ADHD element is so much better. The way I'm more calm since having omega-3s, the way that just generally the pain in my body when I would get some nerve pain was lowered. So this is a huge part, and the low histamine diet works really well. But this quercetin for me is the final key. So let me have a look. Thank you. I don't like first generation antihistamines. How about eating apples where it's naturally occurring? I have no stomach. I've eaten apples for weeks and all I did is get sicker and sicker. So you can eat apples. You could try apple juicing with someone with mast cell activation syndrome. What I do notice is the more you juice, the more you strip. The more you strip, the more you set off the immune system. My whole goal, I did not do I have no stomach. I did not do one supplement except B12 injections once a year for almost 3 years, 3 years. I didn't even really do greens. I was a fruit girl. I did the highest raw food I could get to. I did mono meals, I did juicing. All I did is get sicker and sicker and sicker. My hair was falling out. I wasn't able to work anymore. I had a whole lot of symptoms. And now I found balance. And in that balance, I want to live. And so far doing this, I've corrected all the last things that I needed to correct. So all I'm doing is sharing this. When you are fasting, drink pickle juice instead of water. So when you give out advice like that, pickles are high in histamines. So what are you trying to accomplish by drinking a high histamine drink fasted? If I'm fasted and drink a high histamine food like lemon juice, histamines through the roof. Mast cell activation syndrome is what we're talking about here. So apologies, I just came in chatting PS. Okay, so I can tell that story. I have told it before, but I'm happy if there's new people here because it's a different time of the day. I got chicken pox at 8 years old. I am now 44. Okay, at 8 years old, I got chicken pox. After chicken pox, I was normal before that, bit of cold, bit of flu as a kid, but pretty normal. After that, I really did not get back to school properly. I had massive glands swollen and I was always white as a ghost. Blood test said I'm fine. Went in to see all these doctors and they said I'm fine. Pediatrician said it's all psychological. The girl needs to go back to school. What's happening at home? Anyway, I saw an ear, nose and throat specialist and it said my tonsils had been eaten away by bacteria. So they took out my tonsils and my adenoids. I felt better slowly, okay? And mum always kept saying it came after the chicken pox. You were fine and then you just sick all the time. For 4 years, I did relatively well. So when I say relatively well, I was playing like touch football, basketball, netball, state water polo, all good until I was 16. I had chronic pain around my hips, my pelvis, my back. They started to do exploratory surgeries. They started to give surgeries to put IUDs of different hormone levels in. They started to remove nerves and ligaments and cauterize the areas that were in pain. It was unbearable. I could barely get through weeks of school. I missed so much school. And nobody once again knew what was wrong. Okay, think about this in the mast cell activation being very hard to diagnose and know. So it's getting worse and worse until eventually when I was 22, they found, because they kept saying nothing in your body could possibly signal this much pain. So when I was 22, 23, they found a rare congenital disease around on my uterosacral ligament called an endostomatosis. And they essentially made that name up after seeing it. Apparently, cells of my uterus when I was made as a baby had floated off, lodged into nerves and ligaments in my spine, basically, my pelvis, and then it had closed up. It's very rare that an organ becomes a congenital disease because organs essentially, if a bit of it is in the wrong spot, like a bit of a liver in the wrong spot when you're being broken up and made as a baby, or a bit of kidney in the wrong spot, your body breaks it down very quickly as a pathogen. It does not hold on to it. It does not want it. Okay, my body held on to it. Now, this was essentially driving a high level of estrogen in my brain. High estrogen receptors in the brain cause a high amount of pain. Now, histamines and estrogen share a receptor, so stay with me on this. They share a receptor site. They can. So if you have a hormone imbalance, you're going to have histamine issues. A lot of women find their, I think it's called PMDD, issues go when they just take an over-the-counter histamine. They're like, I was suicidal, I couldn't get up, I was so depressed, and they take an antihistamine. I don't recommend that. I don't think medications fix anything. And also antihistamines don't actually fix the problem. They only block a receptor site. So those histamines cannot touch a receptor site. So just think about that. So back to my story. I then, the pain started to come back after a couple of years and they gave me anti-inflammatory medications. I then got severely anemic and was vomiting blood everywhere and did not know. Blood was coming out of me because it was digested. Digested blood looks like food or brown gravy. I didn't have enough blood left in my body to get to my head. Collapse, was in hospital. They gave me like, I think 10 to 15 blood transfusions, like a huge amount. My hemoglobin was only like the 40s or something. It was really low. And they said, what's wrong? And I tried to explain this rare disease I had. And they said, is there any new symptoms? I said, yes, my stomach is sore at night. They said, we'll do a quick scope. By now I'd had many surgeries. That's all fine. Do your scope. And then they, 14 hours later, bringing another doctor in from a hospital, cut me from here past my belly button and tried to save the top organs because I had just bled out, and because the pain in my back was so bad, I could not feel that pain. Okay, tried to save it with a few major surgeries, didn't work. I ended up projectiling blood everywhere, so they had to remove my stomach, my duodenum, and the top of my intestines. They did originally leave a small bit of stomach, but it eventually just stretched over time to be an extension of my esophagus that goes in straight into the small intestine. Okay, so after that, I get back to work, and then only for a short period, only for a couple months, and then the pain in my pelvis is so horrific, I end up on massive doses of OxyContin, Valium, SSRIs, cardiac units on ketamine, Botox injected in the spine, local anesthetic in the spine, more surgeries to pull my hip out, kept going in on myself. This disease was causing chaos in my body. And they had left a bit there which spread onto my bowel and bladder and caused more problems, okay? Eventually it led to a point where I had a full hysterectomy. My pain went. The pain that I had suffered from when I was 16 to 30 stopped. But now we've got a woman who is missing all these organs and she's got to come off opioids. All I did at this point is get sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. And I got to a point of 37 kilograms. I'm probably 57 kilograms at the moment. And no one thought I was going to make it. I'd had also a lot of bowel surgeries and problems around this time. That's where more surgeries come up. Because of, complications from medications and also complications after my gynecological surgeries. So they thought I was going to die, basically. And then I had a break with reality. I stopped talking, couldn't remember my name. All the trauma had caused a massive problems. And I guess it was a trauma response. They ripped all the things that I was still on out of my system, which was a high amount of opioids, SSRIs. They took off my hormone replacement. They had me on dexamphetamine for concentration. And this is what I look like at the time. And about 3 months later, I was in a psych hospital where they did that. Then they started injecting me with new things, which sent me even more loopy. I got myself off all of those things, okay? I got myself working in 2018 onto a paleo diet and exercising. I would have an occasional wine. That's about it. Very healthy type lifestyle. By the end of that year, I got shingles through the eye. I got FND. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. Ended up in a neurological hospital. Had to relearn to butter my toast, tie my shoes. FND is terrible. I strongly believe it's all linked with histamines and trauma, which histamines come up with stress response anyway. I finally get out from this, and I was in a psych hospital after that, some 10 months scheduled 4 times. I couldn't cope with missing my whole life. Most of my life I'd been sick. Anyway, I then started drinking to cope. Within 3 or 4 months, my liver fails. I'm back in hospital. At this point, my parents said, we can't care for you anymore. I essentially became homeless and was living in a hotel. My brother-in-law helped me get a hotel, but I was so sick, sometimes I didn't go back. I would have seizures, end up hospital, sleep outside a hospital. It went on. At this point, I was vegan. Okay, so all this FND and all the psychiatric things, I said I don't want to eat an animal. I had vegan food. So when I finally got my own place, a family member helped me get my own place, I was too sick to cook. So I ate the food raw. And when I did that, I could get up. I could get out to my clothesline. Maybe I had to crash out again, but 2 days later, I'm up again. So I was so well, I thought I'll cook myself some dry roasted pumpkin, tomato, and basil. Ate it, back to bed, tachycardia, stomach hurting. These are generalized mast cell activation symptoms, okay? But remember, at this point, I've got low iron, low B12, failing liver, and my body stopped making proteins, and God knows what else was going on. Okay. And I'm trying to, I basically kind of stopped drinking at this point. Went back to alcohol 3 times when I got my first place. But this is me at this point. My hair had fallen out. Here. Okay. So then I would eat the food raw. And that was fine for nuts, seeds, a little bit of sauerkraut. Uh, what else? Veggies, fruit, just didn't cook it. And I noticed I could get up again. And I'm like, I can never function and I'm able to do a few things. There's something to this. Steam some ginger, turmeric, and cauliflower, back to bed. Would have like these like chocolate vegan date ball, back to bed. But if I ate just fresh food, I could get up and function. So I couldn't read at this point what I was doing. I could get online and see there was people on Instagram they had big salads and big fruits and they're tropical islands. I'm like, there's raw people called raw vegans. I'm a raw vegan. And my only lifeline at that point was that I saw people called raw vegans in photos and could read a few lines. I could not read extensively what I was doing. It was very intuitive and my life completely changed. That's so awful. I'm so sorry you had to go through all of this terrible roller coaster of health problems, but I'm so glad you're still here to talk about it. I'm so glad I'm here too, and this is why I'm so passionate. Like, that was just a brief overview of my life. Can you imagine? Like, it was unbelievable what I went through, and this is like how I basically ended up before this happened. So this is 2021, and I'll show you 10 months later. 10 months of just raw foods. I use no supplements except a B12 shot and nothing from a packet. I let go of nuts and seeds and everything. And that was a year of raw foods that did that. Nothing extra. I had a blood test 2 months into the raw food journey, and they said that my blood work was improving, and I never would hear that. And a year later, everything had healed except my liver. So my body was making proteins. My liver had healed. My iron, anemia, I wasn't anemic. I'm missing the part of my stomach which absorbs iron. The only thing took 2 years to heal was my liver. And I only drank for 3 months, but as you can imagine, I'd been on a lot. So, seeds are awful for you. So I have found that I am better doing a denser diet right now, which really, really helps, which does have nuts and seeds, but flax oil with the omega-3s seems to really help me. And before people say, you should be doing raw a different way, I did it differently. And I ended up, there's another photo of me here, blood sugar issues, putting on a ton of weight. I ended up, here, show you. That was 3 years of it. And so I'm doing much better now. So it does serve a purpose, but I had to stay in balance with more veggies. I need denser foods, omega-3s, to feel good. But yes, I wanted to get on and say that I have stabilized so much with essentially quercetin, a high omega-3 raw food diet. There is some interesting comments. Yes, and you know what? I never come on here and say that you should go just start eating raw foods. But I think it's important to know that if you start finding that diet plays such a major role. Like I have organs removed, and I do believe that most of what happened to me wouldn't have had to happen if I essentially had this sort of diet, such a lighter load, lower in histamines. You're essentially just getting minerals and nutrients and liquids, and it makes you feel amazing. So good morning, Adelaide. I'm Perth. Look, all around Australia. I drink so much water. I'm 44, but my face looks like I'm 25. I'm even surprised sometimes at how youthful I look. Well, that's great that works for you. Yeah, so my story is both terrible and beautiful, and I think that's why my whole life's purpose is to now share and share little bits or share a lot or talk on love and talk on motivation and talk on the fact that yes, I survived all that, but now I sit in this space of love and happiness and joy, and that makes me feel my best self. And essentially how I got there was, it was these, all I had, I couldn't really watch television or read at the time or had anyone around me anymore, but that I could feel the energy that food gave me almost instantaneously. And without distractions, that might be what's possible for other people. Um, it's very different if you eat something very stimulating and you go watch a movie or you go hang out with friends. But what if you've got no friends? What if you can't watch a movie? What if all you feel is pain, or even eating wasn't even something I wanted to do anymore? Which essentially is, I kind of think that happens when something doesn't serve you. So you can tell you're glowing right now. Yeah, I feel really good. I must also say, when I healed, I spent so much time grounded. So something, it was because I couldn't do the things that I used to distract myself. I noticed that when I was outdoors, especially coming off cigarettes, and I'd stopped drinking, and I was coming off medications and junk food, is you tremble. And I would go outside and put my feet on tree trunks, like ground, or put my hands and hold onto plants and put my bottom on the ground in a park. Well, when I could get to the park eventually. Most of it was in a funny apartment block that was all cement. And there was a tree out the back that went through the cement. And then out the front, there's like a grassy knoll that most houses have. You use what you can. I've been in psych hospitals for months and used just ground. I know they think you're crazy. You are crazy, but you want to ground. That's why crazy people put their feet in the dirt, I assume. That's what I wanted to do, is I just wanted to stop, because everything stops and you feel present, because we're around alternate currents. We want to be that direct current, like the earth, like we're meant to be. So, uh, nature is Earth's natural healer. And I think when you've been as sick as I have, I actually believed the power was in the doctors. I actually believed that what could nature or diet do? Like, I'm past that level. I need drugs, I need doctors, I need the best, and when that all unraveled and you have none of it and you're in your survival skill mode, it's like, what did I remember helped me in any way? And I talk about this a lot. And unfortunately, this man just died. But when I was younger, I was taken to naturopaths, but they put you on a lot of herbs and supplements. And if you have mast cell activation, the more of that you get when you're inflamed, it makes you flare up. But this guy said, look, I've had a lot of patients that have just fixed problems just by eating plants. Like, they just eat plants for 2 days with only salt or tamari sauce on them. And then every second day, you can eat what you want. And I was thinking back when I was like at rock bottom, and I'm like, that's the only time I moderately felt different. Every other time, whether it was a elimination diet, an anti-candida diet, a nutritionist diet, I never felt anything different. So I knew I was on the right path, but my thoughts about what he said was that it's very natural. Like, he's only putting tamari and salt on this food. And yes, there was some cooked, and at that stage I didn't need cooked, but it made me think that, that was something that really worked, and that nature is so freaking powerful. I remember I did weird things when I was healing, like my body knew what to do if left in nature. Like, so there was a whole lot of charcoal that was in the park, and I used to still shake a lot coming off, because I'd just been in another psych unit. They had me on medications. I'd stopped all that, stopped smoking, and I'd shake, and I used to get charcoal. I had this draw. I was used to be very intuitive. I tried a lot of natural things as well when I was trying to heal myself, and I'd rub charcoal and the shaking would stop. Like, literally rub. When you've only got the tools around you, you use whatever nature gives. Nature is powerful. So thank you for being willing to share your story. I'm fruit-based raw vegan as well, and have been struggling with MCAS. I will try Dr. Furman's omega-3 and quercetin. Your story is helpful. Oh, I'm so glad. When it comes to fruit, do you know what I think happens? This is my opinion. I was talking to someone about this just before, and that is, when I was in Bali and I was eating freshly picked, dense fruits, like you've got durian and mame sapote and freshly picked dragon fruit. You're in the tropical sun and you're outdoors all day in a swimsuit, okay? I didn't seem to do badly at all with fruit. What I notice in Sydney, Australia, with the fruits that we buy, like at the moment, all these apples and oranges, or Bananas high. I'm no good with bananas, right? They're very watery. They've obviously, although I get it straight off a guy who's grown it, it's not freshly picked, right? I noticed that I become the fruit. So I become like I'm very fragile, is what I felt I became. And as I put in like everything about me, and I think that who I was, you can feel amazing, right? But it's like this world is so strong that I need some density to survive or thrive or grow some hair or feel more sturdy. But on saying that is I don't know whether I'd have a huge problem if I was in the tropics with my shoes off all day eating denser fruit that was fresh off a tree. But I've just found this really, really helps. So I hope it helps you. Uh, me. I'm moderating here, guys. Trying to moderate for you. Uh, yes. Denied Pancake says it's like your subconscious kicks in when you're in nature. Especially, I had no one around me. So I had been void of talking to people or around people when I got to this point where I'm doing intuitive things for an extended period. Yes, family members would call, but I didn't really answer the phone anymore. So there's no other, like if you, I swear, and you'd be surprised what is actually available to you. Like to think that I'm in a cement little apartment block, a funny apartment block, and even the little bits of nature that stick out were like God, which essentially is God is source, right? Source is God, God is nature. It was like God is still there. He will always be there. And I would just get in and with nature. And it would just make such a difference. And for someone who's been so sick and has always thought, like, how could that possibly be? It's powerful. To this day, when I was in the worst of my mast cell activation flare up, if I took my shoes off and stood outside with no shoes on, it would literally go within 15 minutes. And then I saw recently a reel of a doctor who's an alternative doctor saying that they see in infrared scans that when someone puts a phone up against their face and has a phone call for 5 minutes, they take it away. You can still see the a thermal imaging, not infrared, thermal imaging. You can see the inflammation right on their face. Get them to stand on the earth, grounded on that direct current for 20 minutes, and scan them again and it's gone. And that's why they use grounding mats now. But it's free. It's there. I do it in winter. I take my shoes off. I don't care. I will be getting that earth inside of me and grounding. So, good morning. Hang on, let me just remove this person. There we go. I think I'm sorry if, no, I removed the right person. I thought I took the wrong person. I try and keep this as clean as possible. Yes, there is something with nature. Uh, yeah, I've noticed healthy diet has helped me with my ADHD so much more than any meds. Me too. And then you notice how strong something is in your system. So when I add, I don't know, when I have certain foods which are a little bit stronger, like namashoyu, I will notice the effects it has where I'll be like almost hypo, which it doesn't bother me because I don't have it that often, maybe once a week or once a month or something. But if I was before having a whole lot of foods which were creating this effect, which a lot of preservatives or like I think it's worth knowing what it feels like to just have what you choose to put in your body as well. Like these things all have effects. Like watermelon has effect, greens have effect, but when you start having anything processed, including raw foods, it has a different effect. And when you're all of that effect, you don't really know yourself. Like it's crazy. So yeah, so basically I wanted to just come on here today and talk about this update with my mast cell activation. I will update the folder which is connected here to add that I'm having quercetin. And I will also, something else I was going to update. Oh, I've also been able to have without any reaction, like meals that are higher histamine without a reaction. So I do high omega-3 diet, high omega-3 diet, high omega-3 diet. And then yesterday I had greens with chia, flax, but pumpkin seed, citrus, and avocado. And I didn't react. So I seem to be on the right path for me. So see if any of that can help you. In any way. Even these words have effect. Words strongly have effect. I actually, if you look, I just did a video with my little niece. We made chocolate donuts from carob or cacao. You can choose to use. And I taught her about Dr. Emoto and about how we think of love when we make the food, and we think of healing, we think of friends, and how that affects us, and how the negative words we take on, to the point where someone I do a podcast with, because I told them, I said, she goes, you're always so happy. And I'm like, if I start saying negative words, I can feel it in my nerves, and I lower, and my mouth starts to lower, and I can't be there. And she goes, I saw you doing that. As soon as you start saying like hate and bad, she goes, you see yourself just change. So there's so much power in everything natural we do, though, that we've been gifted, like in our thoughts, in our words, in being in nature. It's amazing. So yeah, there's a strong mind for when you have heavily processed foods. The other thing I notice is, and not that I've gone back, but if I have too much dehydrated food or anything heavier in my system, is how I have this tendency to want to sleep. And I was like, I remember when I ate a lot of processed food, that was my life. You're living for the next caffeine hit or the next soft drink hit. And then when that's too much, you want some sort of sip of alcohol or something, because you can see how the loop goes. But when you just live off nature predominantly, you can feel amazing. So thanks for sharing. Are you saying healing is somewhat individualized? So I don't think healing is what most people think it is. I actually think you can't not heal the mind, body, soul, and consciousness all at the same time. And when you do like doctors and surgery, you're hitting just one aspect of it, and these three will pull it back out. And what I mean by this is, when I finally got on my healing journey, as opposed to being in the matrix and pushed and pulled and chopped and injected and whatever, is what I noticed is I had to do what my body needed when it asked of me. A huge part is like this trust in intuition and soul and consciousness that I lost or never accessed. And there's a whole realm of raw foods out there. And even if you're not there yet, you're wanting to do lighter foods for a while, it's worth knowing all of them, because let your body be the guide. The more I let my body be the guide, the more everything on all levels for me heals. And when it's stagnated on all levels. But it's 100% more than individualized. It's this path of life that's supposed to keep gifting you the unraveling of who you are. And that's locked up until you start trusting your intuition, like what animals essentially do. And we are like, like the ADHD thing is just, when you think about it logically, it's weird, because someone like myself thrives on doing like 3 podcasts a day. I'm about to run off to Pilates. I've got to wash some fruit. I've got to juice some fruit. I've got a million things to do, right? Okay. So, but if I have an amphetamine, which I have not had since, I think it's like 7 years or something, maybe more, maybe 5 years, back before I started healing, is it puts you in flight or fright. So you stop and you start reading. You're hyper-focused, right? But I never got anywhere. Like, I never achieved anything, achieved what my soul and heart needed. Is when you sit in your true element. For me, it's just, I like to be busy. And I guess I missed a lot. And that works well for me. And I don't want someone to take that away from me. I want to work. But someone else, my sister, for example, isn't the same as me. And we never grew up even eating the same sort of foods that were standardized more closely, but we had different choices. Those different choices, when given in natural circumstances, I feel are more powerful, because the choice of someone to have one day like watermelons and mangoes versus another person wanting some green juice, mango and seeds is completely different. And people might think they're very similar diets, but the energetics of that and what a soul is learning and acquiring are for that person. And when we can understand that, we don't as well feel so lonely. A lot of the time you can feel like you want to pull away from people to learn yourself more. So hit the nail on the head with that. Hey, Tessa. It's like if you're open to that, you're already on the healing journey. I just think back to myself, and this is why I send so much love to people, is when I was in the midst of the surgeries and the doctors, is if somebody told me that, I'd be like, freak, or I don't know what I'd say. But I have to love all versions of myself. But if you're open to that, one, and it doesn't, you're not going to dive in because it's like a dark night of the soul. You have to realize most of what you were taught and held on to is not real. But the only thing for me which is actually real is the feedback my body gives me. Like, example, my sister and I could face the same situation and I could be like, oh my God, that is so funny. And she could end up in tears, right? That's a feedback. And when you listen to that, you get directed and navigated through life. But I don't think we get to experience much of that until we first listen to what the body needs in healing. And one of the simple things I also say is sometimes when we don't feel well, it can just be some water and rest. But we're like, we've got to have coffee and we've got to get through another day and we've got to push this and we've got this. And what about this person? This person needs me. Here's more coffee. Or whatever people do. This is just an example. Is it can be hard to listen to the soul and the intuition and your body's feedback say, I need to stop. I need to stop and just have some water. And you could say you have to sit with your feelings, but I guess in a way you do. But sometimes if that's too scary, you do it for a moment and you more than likely will go back to old behaviors. But it's about your healing journey. You offer such a different paradigm. I drink a ton of nettle tea, eat apples, and supplements. I believe that each person at different times will eat different ways. You have different things to learn, and I believe how we eat is a direct reflection of what the universe and our soul is uptaking, right? So I do not like at all that I went through a period of eating high fruits, right? But it's somewhere we've seen in this photo, I burnt out. So I've looked really good when I first started and I was doing more veggies here. That's it, 10 months on raw foods. Well, hang on, let me start. Here, here is like where I was vegan, cooked food vegan. I had in the past probably 2 months there, had 3 days of drinking. I'd pretty much stopped, but my liver was failing. Everything was not working. 10 months of raw foods. Okay. That was lots of nothing, no nuts, no seeds, no supplements, nothing from a packet. It was predominantly lots of fruit in the morning and then 2 salads at this stage. And then by my birthday, it kind of flipped over to fruit, like just fruit. Even at night would be zucchini and cucumber if I wanted it. And I ended up in pretty much just grapes and watermelon, and I ended up here with blood sugar problems, low sodium, and high blood sugar. And I went back to more this style, even a bit less. This was more fruit, sweet fruit. And do I not like this part? I've skipped here. There was good times on this, but this is where I ended up. I do not regret anything I have chosen to do in the past 4 years. If I've been on a raw food diet, I have been doing it the correct way, whether learning or experiencing and healing. And when you understand that, you may feel safer to try new things if that's what you want to do, or you may feel that what you're doing is perfect. And I, most of the time, always feel, and I've accepted this now, that what I'm doing is I've reached perfect. I'm perfect, right? And I did a podcast on perfection today. But it's like your brain keeps you in denial that there might be more out there at a different time. And that's what I'm settled in, is that there'll be different times. I'm coming into spring. I'm actually thinking a lot more about fruit. With the quercetin in, I'm actually doing a lot better. And I believe I might be able to get some more fruit in over the summer, especially in Australia. So that's exciting too. But it doesn't mean that greens are bad or that doing more sprouts. I went through a period of just being obsessed with lentils. And when I didn't have salt for 2 years, I spent the next year when my sodium went low, even when I was having salt, continuously thinking about salt. It's only just stopped. I think the omega-3s have helped with that actually. But it's just interesting that if I really know now to just stay in balance for me, I'm completely enamored by what you're saying. Thank you. It's really helping me with my own perspective. I'm so glad. I'm going through a Kundalini awakening, eye-opening stuff. That's amazing. So that's why I share this, because I think, and this is what I want you to know, everything you're learning from me did not come from the light. It all came from the dark. The wounded healer, right, is the only reason I can teach what I know and these like philosophies, and that you guys are able to understand that it's come from a place of knowledge, because I've been suffered a lot, is the dark. Like the charcoal, the putting my feet on nature when I had nothing, the way that I found raw foods when I had nothing, all of that, and that passion and drive. So without life forcing me, what my soul choosing to walk through that dark, it could not shine bright in the light. If I just stayed up in the light, I'd have no lessons for that were true to myself, that I was not going to waver, or be able to live in my purpose, which is to share with you guys. And in saying that is, if you're going through the dark, you're actually in the deepest parts of learning about your purpose right now. Because what you end up doing, like doing these lives and talking, is like an extension of me. It's like my third arm or whatever, right? It's just part of me. I don't have to think about it. It just comes naturally. It's my purpose. And I believe I always bring up Ed Sheeran, because apparently he had a lisp as a child. Instead of playing with other kids after school, he learnt to play music and sing in the guitar, because it corrected his lisp. At that time, I imagine that would have been painful for him, especially as a kid. You want to play with your friends, you don't feel included because you've got a lisp. And he says that he doesn't win anything in an Academy Award, or a Grammy. He says he learns everything when he loses something or in suffering. Like they're when you win accolades, right? But he never learns anything. He learns it when a business partner leaves. And I think that was a great reminder to me that everything that I do and share comes, and my passion and my drive and all of that came from the dark. So if you are in the dark, you are learning great lessons. So don't know what that means. I am 44. True, without darkness, there would be no light. In fact, I actually, the chicken and the egg, what came first, the chicken or the egg? When it comes to dark and light, essentially, I 100% believe that I can't, yeah, well, didn't God create light? Like it would have been from the dark. We can only birth. Like I literally feel, and Party Boy, who's usually on moderating, always says, you're only 4 years old. I feel like that. I feel like I was only truly born or born again when I turned 40. Like, as in, like, my life actually begun, and I felt things like they should be felt, and I experienced things. And if I do something that's off course, I feel it straight away. That dark night of the soul that I went through before I reached that point, there's actually no words on this planet for what I saw, experienced, and my body had to feel. Like, there's no words. And I've lost my stomach walk in the park. Walk in the park. Everything up to that point of losing yourself and being in like a split reality and taking massive amounts of medications off me when I'm 37 kilograms, feeling like I'm being burnt alive day after day, not being able to tell if it's real or not. The brain does not know. If you lose control or your body loses control, it can send you any message it desires, and you will feel the full throttle of that. Why am I saying this? I don't want to scare people, but look after yourself. Look after yourself and find love. Even if you're in darkness, like even when I was in those psych units, is the thing that I looked forward to every day was looking at the moon and looking at the sun and being out in the little courtyard before they let me outside. So dark was first, then God said, let there be light, manifesting light. Yeah, because essentially it's even symbolism if we look at it. God to me is just in a whole different realm. To me, I am God. God is me. I'm a splinter, if you look at a body, like a finger of sky, like every person is a bit of God. And God needs us to be in like shards that go out and explore and extend and extend and extend. And you can't separate like a finger from a toe, right? But they seem different. That's how I see like us. So essentially by caring for myself, I'm caring for the planet. But by doing this, I'm caring for others, which are just all part of the same. So duality in nature in man and woman. Yes. But it's interesting. You guys have made me realize in this how much that I just believe the dark became before the light. And hopefully that helps some people who are going through the dark. Like when I went through some things and I'm clinging onto the ground so I didn't harm myself, it was like I was possessed, weird things, like hanging on for dear life. And I've hung on for dear life, been on machines, but that was very different. And you hear people talk about dark night of the soul. And I was like, oh, I need to go through that. Like it was some sort of freaking thinking I'd been through it already. I had not even touched the sides until it all shatters. And you actually have to find you. And from that point has been growth. Even though sometimes it's hard. And even seeds, they birth in the dark, right? This is making me think. It's making me appreciate the dark even more because the dark can feel scary. So I say too much. Well, you stay here too much, dude. Here, I'll help you out. Oh, you missed the backstory. I was sick from the age of 8, basically chronically. There's a few years I was good. I've had over 60 surgeries, 7 major organs removed, like my stomach's been taken out, full hysterectomy. I lived 15 years in a bed. I didn't talk about that. So I was bedridden for like 25 years, but I could do things. So like I could go out or even try play. No, I don't think I could do much sport at that stage, or go to a half a day of work or some day of work, and then I'd be in bed all that night and the entire weekend. And this went on from 16 to about 25. Once my stomach was removed, after about by a year later, it was 26, 25, 26. It was literally bed. I could go out for dinner, but I'd pay for it for 4 or 5 days. And in the end, I just didn't leave bed or hospital. So I was literally bedridden for 15 years. So if you go back and watch this live, I've given an explanation, but I have done a lot of lives where I share the story, and there are videos, like long form videos, where I will talk about it. But the great thing is the more confident I get and feel comfortable doing these is the more in depth I go, which I know helps you guys a lot. So we are all our own gods and we are create our own universe, if you get what I mean. We are. And another point to that is when you know that everything I went through and you've gone through was a choice. Maybe it's not a choice on this dense reality, as we know, but a soul choice at some level we can't completely understand, that we chose to better our soul with and grow. And when I have that power, I control my future. Instead of being like, if you give any control, because people are like, the doctors did this to you, this did, I'm like, no, none of this. I mean, emergency surgeries, they saved my life. Like how I got to that point was all my choices. Nature was always out there. Like it was there, but I had to learn lessons. People think that I went extreme. I should have learnt raw foods earlier. I believe if you gave me raw foods earlier, it wouldn't have helped. I just know me. I am like, I was so stuck in that like dense belief system. So I completely agree with you. I believe we are all our own gods. We're just an extension of this. And when you realize that, you think you can do this, right? You can get from being, where was I? You can get from being this person to this person, being like this at 36 and this at 44. So I wouldn't have believed it. I would have thought, truthfully, I could get to like this. Like, but even there, I'm in a lot of pain. Like, I feel like my goal was always just to not live in pain. I didn't realize I could have an entire life. So, I love that. Good night, Harry. Oh, you come. Hey, hang on a sec. Thanks, Rocky. This is a really good question. This is really interesting. Did you need physiotherapy after being in bed for 15 years? That really messes up your body. This may come as an unbelievable story. So when I dissociated, so remember I had been on heavy pain relief. If anyone knows pain relief here, 500 milligrams of OxyContin in the morning, 500 at night, a fentanyl patch of 170, Valium 40 milligrams, SSRIs, I think it was about 40 milligrams, dexamphetamine, I think was like 40 milligrams. There was stomach medications, I think they called, I can't remember what it was called now. Anyway, stomach medications, hormone replacement therapy. My breakthrough of OxyContin was also 60. I'd be put in hospital on ketamine, Botox in the spine, all of this, right? That pain stopped at 30. But as you come off, you feel there's all like chronic fatigue pain, there's pain in my body, there's creaks. When I dissociated and I went through this experience in the psych hospital, so I would have been still on about 20 milligrams of fentanyl, 25 of Oxycontin, probably morning and night. I think 5 milligrams of endone still, dexamphetamine, SSRIs, that and hormone replacement and stomach medication. They took all of that off me at 37 kilograms. And basically, I just stayed on the floor for about 2 weeks, feeling like my bones were snapping. Like I was literally having to watch on an x ray my bones snap while I was burning alive day and night. There was no sleep. That single-handedly is probably the worst, undescribable, no words on this earth to explain what happened to me in that point. But when I got up from that, there was even this point where I was so cold, I thought I was going to stop breathing. I was like, there's nothing left in me. There's nothing left. And it was like my brother-in-law saw this. It's like I vomited nothing. People say there's a spiritual aspect to this as well. After that point, I started to be able to get up. But when I get up, I tell you, even without estrogen, it was like I actually thought I was in a nursing home and I was at the end of my life and I'd missed my life at one point. That's where my brain was at. The interesting thing was I didn't have any pain. I started dancing in the hospital. I started putting songs on from when I was a child. There's only a funny little thing, and started dancing. I would dance. My feet were so, because I hadn't been out of bed in years, I had cankles, my shoes, all the fluid. I couldn't feel anything. It was like being in two places at once. I've never really spoken on this. It's hard to, I like to speak in a way that people can understand. Like, oh, I experienced this and it feels like this. There's no words. There's no movie. There's nothing. Every horror movie looked like a walk in the park to what I experienced. But on the pain note is I came out of this with not really being able to remember a lot of who I am. But with that, any pain memory, and this is why a lot of what people are carrying around is pain memory. I think that disease or whatever had been removed, everything had been removed. I was suffering looping, I think, for years. So I'm dancing. I come out, I start going to the gym. I start rowing 11 kilometers a day. I'm working, and it's not manic either because I'm settling down, getting into a sleep routine. But I think the paleo diet, I started to get a higher into nuts and seeds and fruit. And as I was becoming vegan, I was moving away from meat. I believe I was starting to heal my brain, and that's when I started to feel things come up from my past, and that's when I started to get shingles through the eye, and then I just flipped over and couldn't walk or talk for weeks. Mum would have to dress me, bath me, or I'd have seizures. And this, to me, is like this trauma response where memories are coming back from health because I got healthier, right? I was now 54 kilograms and my brain's switching back on. But I think that diet was not right or was not the right time. I had more to go through. And then the pain came. The pain came not as bad as that experience on the floor. They even woke me up after having my stomach removed, and they hadn't given me enough pain relief, and that felt like my stomach had like a knife burn. I remember just screaming the whole place down. I still think what happened downstairs in the same hospital, psych unit, was worse because I thought this was all happening to me. Smitch meant I could feel it. But yeah, the pain came back then, and from then on I've had to work through it. So yeah, it is. It's like a these drugs are bad. Yes, those drugs are very bad. And I will say this hands down again, if anyone is coming off SSRIs, is because in the past I've come down off opiates, come back off opiates. I've gone without amphetamines for days, weeks. The one key component which put me back in a psych unit every single time is an SSRI coming away. They'll put me back on as soon as they take it off. Not only I think trauma and coming off all those drugs at once was very traumatic, but there's something, and they say it on the back of the pack, do not stop immediately because people can't tell if they're awake or asleep. What does my experience sound like? I think there's more to it. I think my body drove myself to this point to just fracture completely to a point you can't go back. And this is why I struggle. I'm better now, and this year I've put things back into my life like estrogen. I'm using products I used to use because it helps trigger my memory. But with that remembering who I was comes back trauma. But it's like being two separate people from when I ended up in that psych unit on the floor. The person before that is not me now. And that was 2018. That's wild because opioids are supposed to be the hardest I thought to get off. Yeah, if you talk to psychiatrists, they'll say differently. A lot of them will say they've seen homicide, suicide, coming off them. It's like you can't grasp your reality. Addictive wise, it's more a battle about craving it and sweating it out, but wanting to go back because of cravings. I never really had that. The doctors did say because I always screamed for it in pain, I was never like, this is stressful, I need a pill. This is stressful. It was so much physical pain I was in. They said I wasn't going to get addicted, but I've spoken about addiction a lot, that I'm addicted mostly to my hardest addictions to fight wasn't even alcohol or cigarettes, it's coffee. It's coffee. And so we're talking about you're coming off like benzos, opioids, amphetamines. That's the whole family. There's no others. Oh, I guess ketamine I wasn't on at the time, but that was only hospitalized before I'd had the surgeries. But there's no other family of like addictive pain relief. You've got, because morphine is heroin. Amphetamines is the same as meth. You've literally got that cocktail that I was on. And I promise you, like I think love got me through. Even when you don't believe it, if you're in the dark and you keep going, I still love you, you can pull miracles. You don't have to believe it. You just keep saying it. Hello. For 5 years. Okay. Coming off amphetamines for ADHD caused me to dissociate for 5 years. Worst thing I've ever gone through. I can relate to you. Maybe that's why we've connected here. And maybe that's why we're on the same wavelength. It's unbelievable what I think it's psych drugs in general is just that general warning there. Did you try? Yes, wild yam cream. I am on it. I thought it was a natural replacement. So just remember, I've had a full hysterectomy, including my cervix, including surrounding tissue. I did 3 years without it, and on a high fruit diet, you can do better, but I aged really fast. That's why I think I aged so fast as well. So I was on estrogen replacement here. These aren't great examples, but you'll get my point in a second. I'd been a year off it here. So it's still, in my opinion, going to take 3 to 4 months to come out. And then here, I've been off it 3 years. I aged, but not just on my face, my joints felt terrible. I think I was having wild yam. I haven't let the wild yam go. That helps progesterone pathways in the body. But in my circumstance, I've put it back. Was it tough to get back in? Yes. It's a chemical. But the alternative was not good for me, especially cognition. Especially I feel like a lot of my memories come back with the estrogen. Just know I don't need progesterone. I don't need the whole HRT because I don't have a uterus. And all the studies I found and research state that if you add estrogen in after a hysterectomy, it has a protective mechanism. So your joints, your cardioprotective, neuroprotective, well, I need that after all that I went through. I just feel generally better. I would love to just go through perimenopause and menopause naturally, and there'd be a switch over, or maybe try support myself with some things, but that didn't happen. So, hello, Andy Rich. Well, I think mine is, believe that mine situation is extreme, so don't go off mine. Like, we've got a body here trying to run without its stomach and its duodenum, and I mean, if you want to get technical, my adenoids and tonsils are removed. I have had my ovaries, fallopian tubes, uterus, cervix removed. I've had that disease in my hip removed. I've had the surrounding tissue also pulled out. I asked them, I said, that area cannot be in this much pain. Because when they did the surgery to take the rare disease out, they left the wound open. So all those cells of that extra uterus that I had spread onto my uterus and my bowel and my bladder, and caused, obviously, when cycle went out the window, my cycle was always just cramping. So that's why they took out that. I've had glands removed, tumors removed. That's a lot for a body to process and also go through menopause. I do think in the community, the people that I know that choose to use like a bioidentical hormone replacement, I think they possibly could do without it, but they feel better with it. So it's like a personal choice, but I think in some circumstances, and I had to sit with that for myself, because I'm like, I'm going to just do fruit and I'm going to live in God's kingdom and that'll all be fine. And my soul had different lessons on this planet to teach and to do. And yeah. And yeah, I find omega-3s really help me with my hormones being in and just feeling better. So, uh, yeah. And I think I recommend with people is when you have done everything you can naturally, like you've really gone, I've explored, like I've juiced, I've done fruit, I've done mono fruits, I've done paleo, I've done vegan, I've done raw vegan, I've done different ways of raw vegan, and I've really tried. And it got to the point where all I craved, not for a week but for months, was my hormones. I crave things. I always did it, even when I was sick. Is I just know when my body wants something, and when it's when I'm deteriorating. If I was still doing better, I'd try work through it. But I was not getting up, and that's when I started to consistently add sodium back into my diet. Consistently stay with the hormones, which were a bit touch and go at the start, but the alternative was not good. I was just not doing as good. So I just had to weigh everything up for myself and stay true to myself and know not so much that other people I can say to people, I've done all the other things. I did 2 years on fruit. Um, I can say to myself, I've done all that I can. And the other thing is, like, you break a toe. I was very grateful that a doctor could diagnose that. So I stopped running on it and it was displaced. So there is things that you can use from a doctor, but I make the rules now. When I go and I had a flare up of shingles 2 years ago when I was really high on watermelon and grapes, is they give me a whole lot of scripts, right? Is I walked in there knowing I just wanted a diagnosis, especially with my past. It's too risky to just have like random massive rashes come up. This one came up on the right side again around my ribs. But I go in there and I hold court. I'm like, you can give me everything you want, but I'm only taking a blood test once a year or any diagnostics. They have great diagnostics. And I've taken pain relief when I've needed, when my toe was displaced and the first week of shingles as well. Besides that, I just stick with what I feel best with. So doesn't flax remove excess estrogen from the body? I could be wrong. I know that carrots can do that. I don't know about flax because the rest of the estrogen ends up in the gut. So that's why magnesium has been really vital. And whether it's replacement or not, if you have extra estrogen, it ends up in the gut. So if you get constipated, which essentially inflammation from estrogen in that area can do, is it just sits there and you reabsorb. And there's that reabsorption cycle. I think all vegetables with fiber get rid of it. But, there was that hormone balancing salad that said carrot gets rid of it. The phytoestrogens in food don't actually sit on the same receptor site. There's like estrogen 1s and estrogen 2 receptor sites. It's very complex, right? But also, they can actually inhibit an excess amount of estrogen getting onto receptor sites. So they can actually sit there and they do nothing. So I'm not an expert on that, on hormones. But that's some generalization. I think plants are good, the fiber's good. You want to have an empty bowel if you've got hormones replaced. You want that anyway, but especially the buildup will be quite significant. So no, beta carotene more going to help with like that skin color? Actually, let me tell you. I can tell you before I get dressed and run off to Pilates. It's a carotenoid, I know, but what is that, I think? Okay, beta carotene is it's orange, it's abundant in fungi plants, it's a member of the carotenes, terpenoids synthesized biochemically, I'm getting too chemically. Yeah. Yeah, carotenoids give plants color. Okay, used to make vitamin A in the body. That's what I wanted to say. It's a provitamin only found in plants. Do you know I actually feel sad when I get onto like the cruciferous diet and I don't see color in my plate, and that's why I feel I have to go back. So I am happiest when I have a salad which has tomato and carrot and purple cabbage and greens and avocado and mango, and I'm already smiling. And when I get limited, I can do it for a few days and then I'm sad. So I could do a TED talk. Thank you. Maybe one day I will. I love that we're all learning here. I hope so too. I've been constipated on a raw and I wasn't prior. I'm on Dr. Brooke Goldner's protocol. Do you have any tips? I'm very hydrated. I do for you. So I want people to understand when they use this that you've got to be eating well. And that's eating well. If you're doing Dr. Brooke Goldner's protocol, she's going to say to you, which you might have already tried, to not do as many seeds and nuts and to do more of the flax oil, but you might be doing that. Second thing is, if you've got a pretty good diet already, magnesium literally has changed my gut health and the muscles. It's used in the muscles, it's used in the brain, it's used in the nerves. Magnesium is amazing, right? I did not supplement magnesium until, well, I got the hormone replacement in and I was like, I need something to help my bowel. And it helps my sleep. The magnesium I use is by a brand in Australia called Fusion Magnesium, and it has all of them, like chelate, magnesium, all sorts of magnesiums. And that seems to work really well for me. What I suggest to people overseas, if they want that magnesium, ask ChatGTP, get the ingredients list off Fusion. Ask ChatGTP what you can buy to replace it. It's going to tell you 2 magnesiums. I tried other magnesiums, they don't work. And when I say magnesium, I had to start with taking like 5 to 6 of these tablets to get everything kind of like moving. It made me sleep really well. Now I take 1 or 2 at night, only at night. And I'm not giving anybody recommended dosage because you do you. But at the start, to get my bowel actually where I wanted, was a bit of push and pull. And I know people, and I don't recommend this to people. People are like, I tried this and it worked too. So it's about having a large dose of magnesium, but the magnesium will actually correct the constipation because the muscles in the bowel need magnesium. And usually if it's I think it's like 70 to 80% of people in the westernized world are magnesium deficient. So as you're having these bigger doses and it's making your bowel move so you're not constipated, would not suggest starting with 6. Just take 1 or 2. And then if you're not going, you can try an extra 1 or something. Once the magnesium gets in the system over months, you don't need much magnesium anymore because everything gets working again. Yes, magnesium is for ADHD. I've seen reels where people are like, do you take your magnesium daily? And everything just, and it's like that. The other one, which is good for ADHD, is tyrosine, L-tyrosine, amino acid. I am not great with it. The results when I have it are amazing. Like I just focus, but mast cell, I get irritated a bit by it, but it is a good one. L-tyrosine, it's amino acid. Okay, yeah. So go and look up Fusion Magnesium Advance. Fusion, it's an Australian company. It's like fusion.com.au. Find their magnesium, find the list on there. And get ChatGTP to tell you how you can buy it. It'll be like 2 magnesiums. And I just built up. A lot of people say the magnesium. I don't like to ever say unless I actually do it because you're not getting medical advice. I'm just telling you what I do. I'm not telling you anything more than that's just what I did. So, yeah, so it really has helped me. All right, guys, love you. I need to go to Pilates. But, there's a Raw party on tonight. The Europe party is on. Well, it's 11 a.m. Central European Summertime and 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, if anyone's interested. So thank you, Rocky, for moderating. And thanks tonight, Pancake, for being so involved and everybody listening. Bye.